Hello, stupid.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Sonia.
How are
How's it
you?
going? Good. A little bit tired. I had like a big, busy day, but I'm excited to record with you.
I know I saw your little post gym selfie. Feeling endorphins.
Right. That's my definition of a busy day. I did one activity today on a day off. That's one too much.
Did you even work out if you didn't post about it?
Exactly. Listen, it wasn't a gym selfie. It was a post gym selfie. So progress.
But those post and gym endorphins are something else. That glow that you feel after, you're like, oh my God, why don't I work out every day?
Well, it's because I hadn't been in the gym in so long. Like it's actually quite embarrassing because I guess I had a payment that didn't go through in October. All the other payments afterwards went through, but in October there's a payment for somehow that didn't go through. So when I scanned my card, I couldn't go in. So the girl at
Oh.
counter comes and she's like, "Oh, you have a payment that didn't go through." I was like, "Oh, can I just pay now?" Yeah, no problem. And I'm like, "That's weird." Like in October, like I'm sure I've came to the gym since. And she looks at me and she's like, "Well, it looks like your last time was September 30th." I
Ooh,
was like,
the
"Oh
shame.
god."
But you know what? That sucks. And you have to pay for a whole month that you didn't go.
Yeah, I guess. I guess
And then
like a
your
month and a
November
half.
payment went through. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But I mean, it's my own fault. I was too busy to go with the move and work, everything. So it's my own fault.
No, I feel you. I think ever since like summer is done, I lose my motivation as much.
Mm.
And then I'm like, oh, bulking season.
Right? Got to keep warm.
Exactly. And then I find it again in May. I'm like, oh God, summer's coming up.
But all this to say that I forgot how good it felt to like, those endorphins afterwards. Like, oh my god, it just feels so relaxed and so nice.
Hmm.
Hmm.
No, I feel you. I did have a little bit of a workout a couple days ago. Yesterday I did like a super long walk. Think about like in total my watch said I walked about 16 kilometers. So proud of myself.
Okay, so when I was like maybe like late 20s, I had a doctor ask me if like I was physically active. I'm like, well, I'm not working out like right now or anything. Or I don't play any sports, but like I like to take walks. Like I take like really long walks like every night, stuff like that. He's like, that you're way too young for that to count as physical activity.
Oh my God. So savage.
I was like, wow. Yeah, he's like, no, maybe like people in their 50s, 60s, I'll tell them to walk to stay active, but you're like late 20s. You need to do more.
But you know what? I feel like kids these days, like, I'd be surprised if they even walk that much,
Yeah.
you know? Like back in the day, I feel like you'd see kids outside playing on the streets and stuff like that all the time. And now you barely see that.
Okay. How old are you?
Kids these days on their computers and laptops.
iPad generation.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So speaking of when you were, what did you say, 14 years old?
No,
About your
late,
doctor's appointment?
late 20s.
No, no, no. When did you have your doctor's appointment? When your doctor's? I thought you said 14 years old.
No, late 20s.
Oh, late 20s. Okay, well, speaking about when you were in your early 20s. Okay, when you were a kid, I have a little icebreaker for you.
Oh, yeah, icebreaker.
What did you want to be when you grew up or when you were growing up? Like, what was your first memory of you being like, I want to be this?
The first one?
First one. Oh, first memory of what you wanted to be. You can go through the whole cycle of what you wanted to be, but
I wanted to be a baker.
no way. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to be a baker. For a while, for a long time, actually.
Interesting. Do you even like to bake that much
I
now?
love to bake. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I hate the cleanup, but I love to
Hmm.
bake.
Nice.
Hmm.
What is your baking good of choice?
Okay, so there's this like website called Munchies. They
Mhm.
have this recipe for cardamom cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
They are the best thing ever. They are so, so good.
Oh,
Yeah. So those are really, really nice. Um, otherwise, I don't know if you know Dessert Person.
no.
She's a YouTuber. What's her name? Claire something. Anyways, Justin got me her book, and she has uh, white miso biscuits.
That sounds amazing.
They are so good. I'll make stew just to have an opportunity to make like white miso biscuits.
Yeah. Okay, my one beef with baking, I do like baking every now and then. I think we all got a lot more into it during COVID. But my beef with baking is the amount of sugar and butter you have to add sometimes.
Oh my god. Well, that's my French roots, darling. I mean,
Yeah.
is it even food if there isn't half a pound of butter in it?
Okay, I can't do it, and I get so stressed. So I remember making, like, date squares during COVID, and I was like, "No way am I adding a full stick of butter in this."
And like dates are already so sweet. Oh, butter,
Right?
you said, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So then I was like, "Well, it's just, like, fatty, right?" And
Mm,
I didn't, and then it was not a date square, like, because you need, I guess, that to, like, bind it.
yeah, no.
Yeah, it
And
was
for
really
the
bad.
taste.
But I made good carrot cake. I made zucchini bread.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a huge baker.
So, what was the first um, career path you wanted when you were a child?
Man, I was all over the place. I think I would say a teacher.
Really?
I think I wanted to be a teacher growing up, and then I went interior designer.
Yeah,
Um,
I had that face too.
yeah, I think I just watched too much HGTV, and then my sister would wanted to be an architect, so I was like, "Okay, you be an architect, I'll be an interior designer. We're gonna open up like a
That's so funny.
company."
I wanted to be an architect. That was my second one.
No
Yeah, yeah,
way.
yeah. Okay, wait. So, teacher, how did you feel about training? Because we trained together. How did you feel about training?
I do like it. Like I like being a trainer. Yeah, it gave me teacher-esque vibes. The reason I wanted to be a teacher, I think, was, like, when I was, like, in elementary or middle school, I was a teacher's pet.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So, it was like, oh, like, like, I wanna be like her when I grow up almost.
They
Um, and
were
then
your idols.
exactly. And I think, but then I went to high school where, like, being teacher's pet was not cool. So I was like, "No way am I a teacher's pet." And then you just see also your teachers get, like, harassed, and
Oh yeah.
imagine teaching high school,
Oh no, nightmare. Absolutely not.
right? And then, like, under grade, like, 4 or 5, I feel like they're so young. I would've wanted to specifically do, like, grade 6, 7, and 8, or
Hmm.
even 6 and 7.
Who I know you had someone specific in mind when you said like I want to be like her. Who was your favorite teacher?
Her name was Miss Law.
Slaw,
Uh,
like coleslaw?
no,
Coleslaw?
Miss Law,
Oh, Miss Law.
Law,
Okay.
yeah. I think that was grade 5.
Aw.
I'll never forget you, Miss Law, if you're
Aw.
listening out there.
Oh, for sure she's not.
I know. One day.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you either.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that foreshadowed to who I've become today.
Has it?
Like, I guess, like, when I went into training and I became a trainer,
Oh yeah, yeah, okay,
um
okay.
you're like, "What?"
um yeah, so but that was my question. Like was it um a like aha moment for you? Like, ah, this is what I was always meant to be? Or like, oh maybe I was right not to follow that path.
Um, no, I don't, like, I mean, I could see myself going back into it for sure, but it is also very different, I think, like, teaching
Oh yeah.
adults as opposed to teaching, like, kids, like, they're
Yeah.
not in awe of you like the way I was of Miss Law, you
Yeah,
know?
that's very fair.
So I think it's kind of different, and we were together with whoever we trained for only 7 weeks,
Mm.
so, as opposed to, like, a year, but I find it very rewarding at the end of the day, like, you help these people blossom into you
Yeah.
something, and then yeah, like, I did like that aspect, of it. But
You know what I
yeah, I could
find
see myself going back
fascinating
into
about?
it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I
Say that
just said
again.
I could see myself going back into it.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. I think what I found fascinating about teaching adults is that some classroom dynamics are like the same with adults and with kids. Like you still very much have, teachers' pets and like suck ups, and they like still like look up to you so much.
That is true, yeah. It
Yeah,
is. Yeah, no, for sure. That is funny to think about, like, adult learning at the end of the day, they do still, like, act like high schoolers sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All
I got
right.
to live out
Well,
my little teacher dream for half a year, and I enjoyed that.
it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah. And, I guess the best part was that, like, when we had a class, we weren't alone. We had, like, me and Tom were co-instructors. So, I like that. Like, you weren't alone with, like, you weren't responsible of the class the
Yeah,
whole 8 hours.
yeah, that was great. It would have. Could you imagine? It would have been exhausting otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know how real teachers do it.
No.
And they're also underpaid.
Yep. Well, speaking of learning, are you ready to learn about something new?
Yes, what do you have in store for me? I feel like we're going completely blind this week. I don't know what
It's
it is at all.
actually, even before starting researching for this episode, I had very, very little knowledge about this. So I'm very excited to share with you. Have you heard of the Paris Catacombs?
Not until last week when you told me that's what you're doing, and I was like, "Huh?"
You weren't supposed to say that part. Yeah. So, well, I mean, a lot of cities in Europe have catacombs.
Mhm.
Have you visited any?
No, I don't think so.
No, because a lot of them are like open for public. But the Paris catacombs got really, really a lot of traction online in the last month or so because there's a TikToker that did a video that went viral, and
Okay.
it was basically a reaction video of someone going into the catacombs,
Mhm.
and her reaction was like, "Do not do that." Right? So she lives in Paris, but she's American, I guess, because her handle is American Fee,
Mhm.
and her video got like more than like 40 million views.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So um, what she says, so apparently when you can make the right contacts and you can like kind of find a secret entrance to the catacombs and into the tunnel network, and you go in there with like an unofficial map that you found that someone got you, and with your flashlight. But what she said, and I guess what really got people to react so strongly, is that you'll all of a sudden someone will run up to you down there and snatch your map and snatch your flashlight and leave you stranded, and
Wait,
you'll be
what?
lost because it's deep, deep underground and completely dark.
Okay, so I feel like I need a definition of catacombs because, like, I have, like, a cartoon version in my head.
Okay, so we will get into it in great
Okay,
details.
perfect. I'm like, "Hold up."
But just for context for what I just said, basically, in Paris they refer to the catacombs, but what they refer to as the catacombs is actually a huge network of tunnels under the city
Mhm.
that like are abandoned, and there's secret entrances to it all over the city. But it's also catacombs because there's lots of dead bodies down there.
Oh my god. So, like, it's just, like, people it's just, like is it, like, people buried down there? Is it like a cemetery? Or is it just
Uh,
people's remains just left and appearing out of there?
no, 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 no. It's definitely symmetry.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'll actually, I guess I should just get into it right away. Um, so basically, so in the middle of the 18th century, Paris began to have a really, really big problem. It was one of the largest cities in Europe at that point and was growing really, really fast. And people were dying, obviously, and the cemeteries in the city were literally overflowing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And it was a problem to the point where, it literally smelled of rotting flesh in the city, in some areas specifically, right? So, this the there was neighborhoods that smelled like rotting flesh, and it was obviously like a public health risk, like a hazard.
Yeah.
Um, and some of the neighborhoods were even like the biggest food market, you know.
Oh, gross.
So it was a problem, right? So they had to find a way to deal with the dead in the city limits, right?
Mhm.
Um, to give you an idea, one of the biggest cemeteries, Cimetière des Innocents, it's the largest in the city limits. It had over 2 million bodies already.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and when you add the body count of all the other cemeteries,
Mhm.
it came to a total of 6 million bodies.
Holy. I'm guessing this is, like, before people realize, like, you can just, like, cremate people. Yeah, like, we don't have to bury them.
Well, no, it's not before they realize. It's just it's a religious thing,
True. Yeah.
right? So it's how they were disposing of them. That's a good question actually, because you know I don't know much about like cremation and crematoriums,
Mhm.
um, but I know that like there's in some cultures like some very ancient cultures they definitely burn their deads.
In Hinduism, we burn um, our dead.
Deads,
That's such
yeah.
a weird way to put it.
um, what? And it's not a recent thing, right?
No.
So I think it's more like a traditional and a religious thing
Yeah.
that there was a specific way of disposing of bodies, right?
Mhm.
So the bodies needed to be dug up and relocated. Um, it was one of the largest relocation of bodies in history. Um, but since there were religious burials, it had to be done also like respectfully in some form of religious ritual.
Mhm. Interesting.
So the the city, um, luckily already had basically the infrastructure to put the bodies underground, because Paris was built on top of a vast network of tunnels
Oh,
that were
okay.
basically the quarries for when they dug up the limestone to build the city.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, me neither. I found out when I was doing my research. So basically, the limestone with which they built the city was sitting right under the city. So there was already a huge uh, network of tunnels
Mhm.
over 320 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah, so about 200 miles. Um, but they were not super stable. There was a big problem with the tunnels. They were crumbling into sinkholes under the weight of the growing city, and like big sinkholes, like as big as like entire buildings being swallowed sometimes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. So that was also a problem at the same time. So they already had to be refurbished, anyways.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like a one bird, two stone situation.
Mhm.
So in the 1777, the king's architect was giving the task to like stabilize the entire network, and I mean he pulled it off without much of a hassle. They don't went like nowhere. I saw much details of how he pulled it off, but he did. He pulled it off, and now there was a stable 320 kilometers of dark tunnel maze under the city.
That's insane.
All right. So then they just decided, well, that's where we're going to put the dead. Um, which like when I was reading this, one thing that came to my mind was like, why did they have to keep them in the city? But I
I
guess like where else? Like,
Yeah, like, I mean, like, I get the religious aspect of, like, okay, they don't burn them, they bury them, but it's like, is it still the same if you're moving the body now putting it underground, right? And it's
and like,
like,
mm,
there's so much more you can do with the bodies. And at this point, are the bodies already, decomposed? Like, is there
yeah, in various state of decomposure, because it's over time, right? So some are like just skeletons, some are buried in the last 50 years.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, so it's in very variant states of decomposure.
And I don't know if
Um,
I'm jumping the gun here.
Tell me.
But is it like, are they like, is this a certain class of people?
No,
So
no,
this can
it
be
was.
for the rich or royalty. Your body's found in a cemetery, and they're like, take them to the tunnel.
From what I understood, it was every cemeteries inside of the city limits.
Okay.
Right? It was a problem that was, beyond that, and there was laws put in place that you could no longer bury anyone inside the city limits after a certain time because of this
Hmm.
problem. Um, but there's cemeteries outside of the city that were still active, that
Hmm.
are still active. And I know there's some very famous cemeteries still in place in Paris that you can go visit, where like some presidents and some famous poets are buried and stuff like that also.
Mm.
So I'm not quite sure about that. That's a really good question. But mostly, no, no one could be buried in the city.
Wow.
Yeah. So by 1795, they started to move all the bodies. So dead Parisians were being dug up every night and transferred into the tunnels.
Hmm.
A priest would join every wagon load. And I highlighted the word wagon load because the imagery of it in my mind was just like,
Right?
oh my God.
I'm imagining like a horse carriage full of dead bodies and bones, and then a poor little priest just sitting at the front.
Yeah. Sitting in front and chanting the Office of the Dead prayer to make sure that they would keep resting in peace.
Oh, okay.
So that was done very ceremoniously and respectfully.
Hmm.
However, the underground part, they were basically just dumped into the tunnels
Wow.
without any ceremony. So above ground was very respectful, but below ground, dumped like, like just, I don't know, like it's just bones and flesh and, like little chicken wings into a garbage bin,
Wow.
right?
Insane.
Um, it took 2 years of overnight work to finish the transfer of the 6 million bodies. And over time, they continued to move bodies until the 1859. I think I have the date here. So almost the 1900s.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then on top of the cemeteries, did they start now building things, or they just kept it as cemeteries?
Very good question. I think I say very good question because I don't have the answer,
Yeah.
because I didn't look into that. I know there's some cemeteries that are still there. Um, I I'm going to Google that really quick. Actually, while I'm talking, maybe you can Google it. I would
Okay.
imagine that they just built on top of them since they were empty now.
Yeah.
Do Can you, like, I feel like there's so much potential for disturbing piece of the dead and for creating like haunted situation in all this.
100%. There's no way those catacombs are not haunted.
Right. And also, like you said, like the grounds that were cemeteries that people got dug out of, well, like you can't just do a playground on that afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, imagine.
Yeah. um
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up now.
no, nothing. It was a really long time
Not
ago also.
much. Yeah.
I would imagine they built on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna
Or like, you know what? Knowing the way like, cost of land is, especially if like there's so many
Well,
people dying. Now it's like you have to buy a plot before you die.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
your inheritance pays out in there, you know?
But like in European cities, like you can't, that's a lot of real estate going unused once all the bodies have been dug out,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so now you have dark tunnels with piles of bone and rotting flesh and nothing much happening for a while.
Mhm.
Um, until pretty much the French Revolution. So, while all this is happening, the French Revolution happens also. I won't go into a history lesson here, but the monarchy falls and Napoleon Bonaparte rises to power. Okay. Do you know a little bit about Napoleon?
I don't think so, in all honesty.
That's fine. Um, One of Napoleon's belief was that men are only as great as the monuments that they leave behind.
Oh my god.
So that was his thing, that to prove your value, you had to build big, impressive monuments and public pieces of arts that will surpass the passage of time, right?
Mhm.
Which, fun fact, that's where the expression Napoleon complex is from.
Oh, okay.
Which, you know what that means, Napoleon complex?
I'm guessing, like, the complex of being God, like, you wanna be memorialized?
No, it's like overly compensating for shortcoming somewhere.
Okay.
Especially, he was very short, right? So it's
Oh.
often referring to short people, um, like with like big fancy cars, for example, and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right?
He was like a
Um,
definition of a short king.
yeah, kind of, yeah. Except he wasn't a king. Um, so okay, so he was already with all these ideas of, wanted to leave very impressive infrastructures and things behind after his death, so that he would be remembered by, right?
Mhm.
He knew that Rome already had a great system of catacombs that was very popular with the tourists. So he was like, okay, well, wait a minute. We also have a lot of dead bodies and tunnels here. Let's open that up to tourists.
No way.
hmm So he commissioned the refurbishing, basically, of the catacombs, so that it could be open to the public.
Catacomb walking tours?
Yeah,
That's so funny,
yeah.
but also terrifying.
Well, that's you can definitely do that in many European cities.
Interesting. Have you?
No, not yet.
Would you?
100%.
I don't know. I don't know if I could have that many dead bodies around me. That's like doing a
Okay,
that's like doing a séance in a cemetery. You're asking for it almost. You're
well,
asking to be haunted.
okay, hold that thought because it gets worse.
Oh no.
So the workers were sent down there, basically to make it pretty, because remember, they just dumped everything willy nilly.
Mhm.
Um, so they had huge piles of bones on the ground to deal with. So what they did is that they made their way through slowly, rearranging the bones along the walls into like fun patterns and mosaic.
Mhm. Okay, so that's where, like, those pictures of, like, the skulls and everything, the
Yes.
cartoon image that I have in
Yeah.
my head.
So if you want to go to the drive, I have some pictures ready for you.
Okay.
Okay, so as you can see, in the three first pictures, it's kind of how they arrange the bones, and it's very, keep in mind, like, those are like just mix match of like bunch of different bodies. None of them are identified. Um,
Yeah.
and they're arranged. They lined the walls with tibias and femurs, and they punctuated them with skulls here and there, as if they were, putting pretty tiles together.
Yeah, they made a good pattern out of it.
Yeah, they
They're all
made
like
they made
like, the bones are all kinda, like, facing the one way, all the skulls are mostly facing one way.
Yeah. Well, it's like very aesthetic oriented, and it was
Mhm.
made to be pleasing and also kind of like creepy and macabre for the tourists.
Yeah.
They arranged the bone in different shapes at different places. Also, sometimes they were arranged in hearts, in circle, or in death heads. Death heads is like the pirate skull and bones thing.
Oh, okay, so just like a cross of the bones and then a skull right on top of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then they put plaques and signs, and they carved some arrows in the ceiling,
Mhm.
to help people navigate, because it is a maze down there. And don't forget, at this point, flashlight has not been invented.
Oh my
This
god.
is all visits under candlelight.
That's insane.
Could you imagine? It would be so surreal.
Imagine that being your job there. Like, you go down there, you picking through all, like, people's dead bodies' bones,
Yeah.
and then arranging it in a pattern. Like, is this aesthetically pleasing enough for you? Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they opened to the public. Mind you, only 2 kilometers of the entire tunnel network, which is 320 kilometers, is
Yeah.
open to the public.
Okay.
They've also put up at the entrance the very now famous sign that reads "Arrête, c'est ici l'empire de la mort," which means in English, "Stop, this is the empire of death."
That's insane.
Do you see that sign on the
I see
drive?
it. I would turn around if I saw
Ah,
that.
right. And I love how it's like, "Stop, don't enter," but it's literally was put there to attract tourists.
It's like Halloween decoration,
Kind
like,
of, which is a bit of a disrespectful way to handle to dead,
yeah, for sure. That
right?
is, he definitely, like, made this a touristic attraction of a cemetery. You would never do this in a cemetery,
No, no.
you know?
But it was a big hit with the tourists.
Oh my god.
And then you like I said, the visits were under candlelights.
Mhm.
Um, and it drew a lot of people to come and see them. Um, there was I didn't get too much into it because it was not that interesting, but over the years, because this was a long time ago, early 1800s, right? But over the years there was a lot of closing it to public, reopening it to public, closing it to public, reopening it to public. Some of it was pressure from the church to close it. Some of it was because the infrastructures weren't safe, and stuff like that, right? But to this day, like today, it is definitely open to public for both guided and self-guided tours.
Oh, self-guided.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
But it's
um
just the 2 kilometers.
Correct, just the 2 kilometers.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost immediately though, after opening it, um people started to enter the tunnel network illegally, because there is entrance to this tunnel network all over the city.
Yeah, the 320 kilometers.
Exactly. And the bones arranged like this are just a 2 kilometer portion, but there is 6 million bodies down there. Like there's bodies
Oh my god,
all
yeah.
over it, right? So people would enter it and host a bunch of underground events and parties.
Oh my
Apparently,
god.
King Charles V had a lot of parties down there. Um,
Oh my god.
in the 1897, I struggle with years and big numbers so much. Musicians held a concert down there, and they played, among others, Chopin's Funeral March,
Oh.
which, yeah.
How does
Um,
that go?
oh, the Funeral March?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hum the Funeral March on here for
Let's
you.
insert a clip here.
Okay. We're not doing that either. I'm editing. That's not happening. um, but yeah, people would visit the catacombs illegally and legally, and steal bones, and to this you can see a lot of spots where like the skulls are missing.
Oh
And at first they would
no.
like replace them, but eventually they just gave up and just like, well, I guess there's no more skulls there.
And I can totally imagine people, like, vandalizing it, like, graffiti on them and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of
Like
graffitis.
like S plus A on a skull's
Could you
head.
imagine?
Wow.
um, so would you go?
Honestly, well, I feel like we're getting to the fact that there's haunted and there's ghosts there and people have died there.
I'm not gonna tell you about that right away. But just with the
Okay, but
knowledge
I
that you
feel
have
like
now.
that is gonna be something that's gonna come up, and knowing that I can foreshadow it right now, and I don't think I'd go there. I mean, if it was like, like a museum-esque vibe, then maybe I would, like, maybe during the day.
Well, I think it is though. I think the portion where you pay for and it's open to public, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'd do that, but I wouldn't go, like, by myself. I wouldn't go to a party down there, not go to a seance down there.
um, have you ever done like in your youth, like breaking into places you shouldn't have, or
Yeah, I think we've broken into, like, a school bus once. Like,
A school bus.
so, like, the back of the school bus, like, like that
Oh yeah, yeah,
emergency
yeah,
exit door at the back?
yeah, yeah,
That's,
yeah.
like, apparently, like, that's left open technically because it's an emergency exit. So, me and my friends used to go sit on school buses,
That's so fun.
um, go play in, like, forests and stuff like that. No, I don't think I've ever broken into an actual house.
Did you ever like um do like well, I guess not ghost hunting, but like Ouija board and
Like,
seance stuff like that?
seances and stuff? Um, no. I think I remember once, like, we were moving and, like, my friend I was, like, telling my friends, and we're like, "Yeah, let's totally do it," but I don't think like, at my house that we were moving out of. Um, but I don't think we actually did that. No, we didn't. I know we didn't. No, I don't think I've ever done one. I feel like you have, though.
Oh, I have. Oh, 100% I have. I
Yeah,
love
you're
that
gonna do
stuff.
one tonight.
No. I mean, no, I don't think I would do it again in a place where I live because it didn't go so well last time.
Yeah.
But
I feel like Justin would hate that if he
oh,
found
Justin
out.
absolutely would not like it. As much as like he's very much of a skeptic about these things, he
Yeah.
also would not like it at all.
Yeah.
Um, but also like yeah, there was like abandoned houses that we broke into as kids. We did like little like when we were like teenagers, like not even like 12 or something, like paranormal investigating with a camera into like some abandoned houses and stuff like that.
That's so funny.
And I think I still have the footage of that. I should ask my brother.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. So I love all these things. So like I would be way into like going there, like even by like an unofficial entrance and stuff like that.
I totally feel like you'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for a walk and just, like, look for this by yourself," like
Or just randomly like how did I end up here? I was not paying attention for the last 20 minutes and all of a sudden I'm into some dark tunnels.
Yeah.
I was looking for somewhere to pee.
Oh god, on a skull.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a big community of urban explorers who are referred to as the cataphiles, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, like because it like some of it is in French and stuff like that. My accent's gonna be all over the place with
Eh.
this
No, this is
episode.
perfect. No one better to be telling us an episode about France.
Right. So yeah, the cataphiles, they're like urban explorer who go into the catacombs illegally. They have their own entry spots. They're typically, however, very respectful and protective of the tunnels.
Okay.
They're highly organized. They have created maps and they share knowledge among themselves.
Mhm.
Um, and they 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 maintain the some rooms also, and they'll clean and paint some rooms.
Oh,
They'll organize parties. They'll also just go on exploring, like hunts, um, and they also can offer some unofficial tours.
okay.
So if you're like connected and you know someone who knows someone, you could get like someone to take you down there.
Wow.
Because going in blind is very dangerous, and like that community of people will stress that like do not do this if you don't have the experience because it's easy to get lost. It's completely dark. It's a maze of tunnels. um, some places are partially or fully flooded.
Oh, no.
There's some occasional cave-ins. Just a bunch of hazards. um, and also there's some people that might not want to be witnessed down there.
So people committing crimes and stuff?
Yeah, or just some secret sketchy meetings happening. There's some a little bit of grave digging, although not that much anymore because I don't think there's much more valuables down there. But some of the it's sometimes used as a hiding spot for criminals or some escape routes.
Mhm.
And there's also a lot of secret parties, which I feel like if you stumble across a party, then you just start partying. But you
But
know,
it's not like a cute, like, wine and cheese night, like, these people are probably doing, like, hard drugs and,
and
like
rave and yeah, yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, right. This I found was fascinating. There's also a whole prefect of the Paris police dedicated to the catacombs, that
Oh,
to
wow.
like patrolling the catacombs,
Mhm.
and they are referred to as cataflics.
Wow.
Um, Flicks in French is like um, slang for cops for police. It's like cops.
Okay.
So cataflics. So they patrol the catacombs. You're not in big trouble if you're found down there. To be honest, like they give you a fine of like €60, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Um, but they do find a lot of crazy stuff down there. So in 2004, they found a fully furnished and functional movie theater.
What?
Yeah. So there was the secret entrance behind like a under construction sign. Um, at the entrance, there was some closed circuit cameras that were like automatically recording everyone that would walk by. Like they would be triggered by someone walking by and it would start recording them. And there was also like some sound of some dogs barking that would be triggered to like scare people
Oh my
off.
god. It's like a movie theater speakeasy in
Yeah,
a tunnel.
in deep underground tunnel. But then when you continue down the tunnel, there's an amphitheater with a full size cinema screen, bunch of projection equipment, tapes of many genres of film. There was like some film noir classics, but also some really recent thrillers.
Wow.
One thing that I thought was interesting is that none of the films down there that they found were like banned films or like any offensive films. So it's not like snuff films or like weird porn or whatever. Um, there was a restaurant with a bar.
What?
Yeah, yeah. They say like they found some whiskey bottles, a bunch of other spirits, a pressure cooker for making couscous, which they specified in the article that I read, like making couscous with the pressure cooker. So maybe
That's
there was
so
some
funny.
leftover couscous in there.
Yeah.
The electrical wiring was made very professionally. There was 3 working phone lines,
Wow.
and this is the part that like creeped me out so much. So then they found all this, like the patrolling cops went back to the surface and came back 3 days later with some experts, some like electricity experts, basically to trace the source of the power. But when they came back down 3 days later, everything had been taken down.
No.
There was nothing left except a note on the floor saying, "Do not try to find us."
Oh my god.
Isn't that wicked? Like,
That's insane.
what?
Wait, so what year was this again?
2004.
Oh my god. This is Banksy's doing.
That's crazy, right? It's like, I think that's a good point, though. I think like Paris has a lot of like those underground stuff going on.
Yeah.
Literally underground in this case. Um,
And no one's ever, like, spoken up and taken accountability for it. There's no,
so
like, rumors?
that's interesting. Yeah, you brought that up. There is a group called UX, that stands for Urban Experimenters or Urban Experiment, that claim that they were responsible for it,
Mhm.
but it's widely disputed, and people pretty much think that it's not true, that it's not them, because the people who were responsible for it clearly did not want to be found. So it's weird that they would come back and claim that it was their doing.
Mhm.
And also didn't provide any proof that it was them who did it.
Okay. I am gonna apologize in advance if you hear some light purring. Should be
Oh,
comforting, but my cat just jumped on my lap.
hi,
And I
Tequila.
was so close to the desk, I was like, "There's no way she'll make it up here," so I was just ignoring her, and she made it in here. She's not comfortable at all, but she just started purring.
That's okay. She can hang out with us. Yeah, so that's one thing that's going down there. Another thing that was really interesting is there's some mushroom farming in the catacombs. So
Gross?
yeah, well, no, I mean apparently not. So apparently, it's disputed like who exactly discovered this, But in the early 1800s, some farmer discovered that button mushrooms, you know those white button mushrooms,
Mhm.
which they call Paris mushrooms there, they grow better underground, right?
Oh.
So then they started farming them into the tunnels, which has kind of a steady temperature all year round, which meant that you could farm the mushrooms all year round as well and like have crop all year round. So this caught on, and by the 18, I have so many dates, I struggle so much. 1880,
You can say
over,
1845 if you need to.
I might
No one will
honestly,
judge.
everyone will judge, but that's fine. Um, 1880, over 300 mushroom farmers were in the tunnel producing 1,000 tons of Parisian mushroom every year. Yeah, and
Wow.
they had developed like ways to control the air temperature and the moisture in certain areas. And I don't think as many now. Now most mushrooms come from outside of Paris, but there's still some mushrooms being farmed that way. Not legally, I don't believe, or like it's kind of a gray area,
Mhm.
but it is it is widely accepted that like authentic Paris mushrooms, so mushrooms from the catacombs, are a delicacy and supposedly like far superior tasting mushroom that the button mushrooms that you find elsewhere. So
Oh
some
my
restaurants will
god.
pay like big butts to serve um,
Catacomb mushrooms.
Paris mushrooms. Yeah,
Oh my god. I
wild, right?
guess it's the decay matter in there.
Yeah, I mean, it would produce for very fertile ground.
Oh god. I don't wanna think about it.
Yeah. Before I get into the sinister stuff, something else that I found was interesting. There's a this is very recently actually. There's a tech startup called Scenario, focused on location-based metaverse,
Mhm.
um, that partnered up with some cataphil, and started 3D mapping the tunnels with their iPhone 12. So they just scan like every meter of the tunnels slowly and create a digital copy that you can then travel through from your computer.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. So I went to play on their website a little bit, and there's not much there right now, and I really hope that keep they follow through with the project and like they keep mapping it. Although I could imagine there would be some pushback from um, the underground community that might not want that,
Mhm.
but it is pretty cool that you can, and like the portions that are there, when you see, they are full of like you can tell that people go there frequently. There's like so many graffiti, there's some space that have some lighting, there's some, some place that are clearly uh maintained.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so fun. So, like, do you like, does it say how much of the 320 kilometers have they done?
No. So
Okay.
that's the other interesting thing, is that it's very um not reported on and very secretive, because it's very it's they do a very good job at gatekeeping it,
Yeah.
right? So let's go a little bit into the more sinister stuff.
Mhm.
um all right, there was some deaths. Yeah, let's talk about Philibert Asper.
Uh-oh.
So this man was born April 13th, 1732, a long time ago. And he died sometimes around November 1793,
Mhm.
when he disappeared. He disappeared around that time. So he was a doorkeeper for the Val de Grace Hospital during the French Revolution. And he entered the catacomb through a staircase in the hospital courtyard. They don't really know why he went in it, um, but there is some that believe that he went looking for a stash of alcohol.
Okay.
because during World War II, the catacombs were used as hideouts, as well as places to hide possessions away from the Nazi.
Mm,
Right. So he went in there. Now, mind you, still no flashlight, with candlelight, I would suppose.
mhm.
And he was never to be seen for another 11 years. His body was found 11 years later. The only way they could identify him is because he had the keyring of the hospital, right? Because he was like the doorkeeper for the hospital.
Oh,
Um, and they found him dead with a bottle of liquor in his hands. So he probably got lost, and died from, just exposure, I guess.
yeah.
Or I want to say dehydration, but like he had liquor, but I guess that still counts. Maybe the bone was
Starvation.
starvation. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the really, really messed up part is that his body was found 10 feet from the exit. He was so close to the exit, but still completely lost.
Okay, so hold up. I'm so confused. So he went in by himself,
Yep.
as people think. They like the story probably came out after his body was discovered, right?
No, he was reported missing.
But how did they know he went to the
Oh,
catacombs?
yeah, 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 probably.
So I think what I'm like, how does his body was found 11 years later?
Because there's still people who explore the like the
No one
Canfields.
went in this part until 11 years.
That's quite possible, yeah, because it's a
That's
vast, vast, vast
insane.
network, and this is a part that you can enter through the hospital's courtyard. So it's probably not an easy part to enter secretly.
Yeah. That's insane. And like, but like, it could also be that like someone killed him and framed, like, put his body there.
I mean, it could, but there would be some signs of foul play.
True, yeah.
But then again, you make a good point. Like this was in the 1700s,
Mhm.
or like the early 1800s that we has found.
So they probably couldn't do like
Forensics, I don't know the states of like forensics investigation at that point.
mhm.
Um, but it is the way this story is reported everywhere is that he got lost, and couldn't find his way back, but he was only 10 feet away.
That's insane.
Right.
Or maybe a spirit took over his body and he was trying to escape and then he fought the spirit and
Okay. Well,
killed
here
himself to sacrifice for the spirit to get out and kill the whole population of the
that
world.
that is the perfect segue for this next story.
Oh.
So in the 1990s, so the 1990s, um, a video camera with some footage on it was found in the catacombs. Um, the tape was the point of view of a cameraman holding the camera and exploring the tunnels with a flashlight.
Mhm.
So at first, it's calm and investigative. He's just, he observes some wall painting, some bones. He's walking through. Then his breathing gets louder and anxious. He starts walking faster. He's looking nervously around and like pointing the cameras at every corner. Um, he's acting visibly scared. And then he starts running as if he's being chased.
Oh my god.
Eventually, he drops the camera, probably so that he can run faster. Um, and the camera just lies on the ground on the side in a puddle, and you see him like just sprint away in the dark.
Oh.
So they found that camera with that footage. They have no idea who who the camera and who the footage belonged to, who the person was.
That's
Um,
insane.
Apparently, it was found in one of the deepest corners of the catacomb, one of the creepiest corners. And the man, yeah, was never identified, and we don't know what happened to it.
That is insane. That reminds me of, like, one of my favorite, like, horror movies, like, The Blair Witch Project.
Yes. Oh my god, I love that movie too.
They should have a catacombs of Paris,
Found
like
footage. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, that would be a great setting for even like a sequel or something.
Right?
Um, but that's interesting you say that because this was presented, this footage, on a very, you know, creepy places, paranormal. I don't remember the show, but it was on an American, like, creepy places around the world show.
Mhm.
Um, and they make it sound very sinister, but it might not be all that sinister at all. Um, First of all, maybe the guy just made it back to the surface and just never went back for his camera. Um, Maybe he wasn't spooked or chased by anything, but he just started panicking because he was deep underground, alone, claustrophobic, in the dark, right? And just started realizing that he was lost.
Mhm. Maybe
But
someone planted this there because it's a cool haunting footage.
also that, yeah, I feel like that would be more of a prank in like today though than it was in the 90s, because
Totally.
like found footage and stuff like that wasn't much a thing
Mhm.
then, but could be, yeah. Still though, very disturbing to watch.
Mhm.
It's on YouTube if you want to watch it later. It's really interesting.
You watched it?
Yeah, 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 it's like a minute and a
Oh,
half.
okay, maybe I will
Yeah.
before it gets dark.
um, then in 2017, two teenagers were went missing in the catacombs. Um, and they were rescued after 3 days missing, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. And they were located by a crew with dogs. And everywhere I read about them, they kept saying like, "This was thanks to the dogs. If it wasn't for the dogs, we would never have found them." Aw,
Yay!
good puppies. Um, but they went missing for 3 days.
Oh my
Teenagers.
god.
Can you imagine?
That's so scary.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, no food or water,
No,
and then let alone that, but you're stuck with bodies, dead bodies everywhere.
in like a very disoriented dark maze.
Oh my god.
Yeah. They were treated for hypothermia, but otherwise they were completely fine.
Wow.
Um, the temperature they said down there is around 15 degrees Celsius year round,
Oh, wow.
right? Um, and then there is the story of the TikTok map snatchers, right?
Yeah,
On
what you started with.
exactly, yeah. So that's whole thing. That whole the catacombs are getting a lot of traction right now because of that that story, that viral post, right? Now,
TikTokers run everything.
oh my god, yes.
I'm joking, no hate towards TikTokers, I wish I was.
um, what's what I was expecting to find was all these horror stories when I started this research, right? So, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, it's widely accepted that it's just an urban legend, that no one is will steal your map and your flashlight.
Okay.
Well, sort of. So there's no one lives down there, but the cataphils will spend a night or two every now and then, for exploring or just for upkeeping of their spots or for having parties, right? Um, but the experienced cataphils, like, they're not stupid. They know that creating an environment where accidents will occur will attract very unwanted attention on the places and closure of the entrances,
Mhm.
right? They're also not evil. They don't wish to harm anyone. As a matter of fact, like, they often will assist cops in search and rescue missions,
Mhm.
and they try to warn people against going if you're not experienced.
Mhm.
It's a um, people exploring and taking care of the catacombs has been going on for a long, 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 long time. Like, it's not a new phenomenon, right? So they have their own code of ethics, if you want. You know, they are protective of the place. So if they found you there, they might escort you out. Um, they are known to play pranks and to haze newcomers sometimes,
Mhm.
often with smoke bombs.
Oh god.
Can you imagine? That would still be very terrifying.
That would be so scary, especially in, like, a cave that
Yeah,
you can get disoriented in, full
yeah,
of dead bodies.
right, exactly. But usually they do this in areas that aren't dangerous, where you wouldn't have a hard time to find a way out.
Mhm.
And they'll do this on busy nights also, where there's a lot of people around to help you if you get lost. Which I was interesting. It was interesting to see, like, oh, busy nights. Like there's like peaks, and there's a lot of people. There's enough people to go down there for there to be like high traffic nights kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's wild, right? Um, but
Like, you
there's
go for a little mixer at the catacombs?
yeah, yeah. There's been a few stories. One YouTuber in particular, um, of that hired like a caterpillar as a guide, and that he took them down there and then stole all their shit and left them stranded.
Okay.
Right. So that did happen. There's a few stories here and there of stuff happening like that,
Mhm.
but uh, it's very frowned upon and condemned within the community of the caterpillars themselves. And um, that person that did that to the tourist, um, like, apparently doesn't even go down there anymore, has been like shunned by the community.
Oh, okay.
Right. So most of the really sinister stuff I was looking into turned out to be urban legends, basically. um,
Wow. I'm surprised.
right. It's like I find it even more shocking that that space exists without any serious problems and consequences than the opposite.
I think more like I'm surprised that there's no, like, haunting legends of, like, a lady with no eyes that will come visit you if you go down this tunnel, and,
Hmm.
and, like, spirits that people talk about, you know?
I know. But okay, on that though, wait, before I touch on that, there is like some criminal activities down there. There was a story that it's not in my notes, but that just came back to me that I came across. Some some criminals pulled off a heist, like a wine heist. So basically, they from the catacombs they dug into like a cellar underneath like a house, or I don't know if it was a house, but they stole for like millions of dollars of wine bottles.
Wow.
Yeah. So like there's stuff like that that happens every now and then. Um, but yeah, TikTok seems to be like very hungry for scary stories about the catacombs right now, and most of the reports that you see on TikToks, because there is a lot of scary stories on TikTok, but most of the reports are secondhand reports, and they're also from non-Parisian content creator,
Oh, okay.
mostly like Americans.
Are we surprised?
There's actually very few official reports of missing or dead people in the catacombs, despite the overwhelming amount of people on TikTok saying that there is.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, Cataphiles are a very well organized community that predates social media and viral trends, and they're very respectful of the space and very secretive.
Mhm.
So they don't communicate or share any of the information on the social platforms or forums or whatever.
Mhm.
There's actually a lot of gatekeeping going on. Um, they will try to discourage people from going, especially without experience. And I think part of that is managing the stories that might attract people to go. So I
Mm.
think a lot of the scary stories will be like, or ghost stories or haunted stories will be like how'd you say, like hushed, like keep
Yeah,
like
kept on the
well,
down low, like
exactly, and like and myth busted so that it won't attract more people to go.
yeah.
Because like there's no way that place is not haunted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, even, like, this whole, like, oh, this guy, like, he went down there and was found 11 years later because he was looking for booze and he just died from
yeah.
dehydration. There's something more to it. I feel like the bottle is probably planted there. He was maybe even planted 10 feet, you know,
You're
to make
so
it look like, "Oh, he was
conspiracy.
almost there," but, like, no, someone killed him probably, and they found his body, and they're like, "Oh god." Um, and, like, same with the camera, I feel like the camera one,
I
there's
mean, the
probably
camera one was really creepy to watch. I'll have you
yeah.
watch it later.
Oh my god, I'm scared.
Yeah. Um, the I did found quite a few subreddits about it, but what I found like interesting was that most of the subreddits were people asking question about them and then just being shut down by like, no, that's not a thing. You're wrong. Don't believe TikTok. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So one of them was an American YouTuber looking for some content and some people to interview about the catacombs. So that was her post, and then a few days later, she posted a reply saying like, "Hey, actually, never mind. People made me understand that this was a very bad idea, and we're quite rude about it. So I'm just gonna find a different subject." But
Interesting.
there was no like replies in it, so she got like probably direct messages a lot, and then there was a
Wow.
few other replies under that saying like, "Yeah, not doing it's a good idea. Just move on to something else."
Oh my god.
Right? So it is a very
There's
well
something that's
protected
being kept
space.
on, like, the hush hush,
Yeah.
like
I think, for some legitimate and some maybe less legitimate reasons, they want to keep people out of there,
mhm.
right? Um,
And I
s-
think respectfully too.
yeah. What was that? What happened?
My cat just jumped out of the closet and it
Oh my God.
scared the shit out of me.
She comes out with a bone in her mouth.
Imagine. She's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have gone here."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, you do want some people who have some kind of respect for the dead to go down there. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Um, and you don't want people goofing around and being super responsible and just doing like some weird pranks for clout because it is also very dangerous down there.
Yeah, exactly. I think I could probably like obviously like we can't verify any ghost stories and stuff like that. This is all speculation. But at the end of the day, you just want to get lost in these tunnels.
No, no. And there's from what I gathered, there's a community of people who really care deeply about that space and who made it a passion and a home
Mhm.
and who don't want that taken away from them by some idiots who will get hurt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And in that sense I understand.
Exactly.
So you know I think if I ever had the opportunity, made the right contacts, had someone who I could trust that would uh, uh, take me down there and guide me down there, or perhaps bring me to a party, I would definitely go.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go um, seeking that experience at all costs, um, because I do want to be maybe mindful and respectful of people who made it their home and their passion project.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Paris Catacombs.
That was super interesting. Did not know anything about it. I actually haven't been to Paris. So I'm super taken back about this whole like tunnel system in Paris and now the fact that there's 6 million bodies down there.
I am blown away by the fact that I mean, I guess like there's not much they could do about it. Like it's how is it still very much a thing
Mhm.
that people just go wander around out there and it's tolerated and accepted? I mean,
Mhm.
great, but also how?
Right? I think I think I'm more like blown away by the disrespectful part of like just like ripping out bodies, which is fine. Like, okay, you have to
No, you're
replace
right.
thing, but then just like piling them up and then making it a tourist attraction.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very strange. Um, like I get that there was a problem and that was a convenient solution, but I mean, they're not even identified, the bodies. They're not even kept intact and whole.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sure the people that are shutting this down on social media are the ones who have maybe loved ones buried down there, or their ancestors
I
have
mean,
are
it wouldn't
probably
be loved ones. It would be far, far behind
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ancestors.
Sorry, ancestors, bloodlines, born and raised there, and that.
I think it's the people who like having parties down there and want to see it continue.
I'm trying to be as respectful as we can be about this topic.
Well, I mean, I think the space being used, having a purpose that cohabits with the dead resting there is not a problem. Like I'm someone who believes that there's nothing wrong with a picnic in a cemetery
Hmm.
as long as it's done respectfully.
Yeah.
Um, so is a rave in the catacombs respectful? I don't know.
Disturbing the dead.
Well, maybe the DJ's good; they'll appreciate it.
Yeah, to each their own. As long, but like we can all agree on some disrespectful activity, like vandalism,
Yeah,
peeing, urine,
100%.
yeah, all that stuff. But yeah,
Or even like some really like childish ghost hunting. I could find disrespectful.
hmm,
Like some teenagers going down there with a camera and like trying to piss off the ghost just to get something cool on camera and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that's not how treat the dead, like in their place of rest,
yeah, exactly.
right? So no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I mean, researching it, it took a turn. I will say I got completely. I got by TikTok. I was like, oh my god, this place is insane. There's going to be murder and crime and ghoul and
Yeah,
ghosts but actually no, it's just this community of people who um, care a lot about this space and who probably feel very threatened by this viral TikTok.
it's so funny. Yeah, you see that like on TikTok, and you did your research, and you're like, oh, it's not much to it. Like in that sense, there's not that many ghost stories and stuff like that. Imagine getting got by it and like traveling to Paris to find out.
Oh yeah,
Making your whole trip about exploring the catacombs.
oh yeah.
And you go there and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, by the way, that viral video of what was her name, American Fee,
Mhm.
um, she took it down since.
Interesting.
Isn't it? She took it down since, and a lot of the videos that do go viral and the posts that do go viral are eventually taken down, probably pressured to be taken down.
Oh my god. Interesting.
Well, that's what I had for you today.
That was really well researched. Thank you for
Uh-huh.
showing this, and I can't wait to go down on that TikTok rabbit hole, as well as watch the YouTube video of the camera falling.
I'll send you the YouTube video. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you for listening, and stay tuned next week. We might have some more um trends that kind of you wanna go into, and then you find out it's nothing.
Yeah.
A little
Isn't it
foreshadowing for you.
fascinating? We get really hyped about a spooky subject and then discover that it was all fine all along. All
Thank you
right.
for listening. Bye.
Oh, wait. Was that foreshadowing?
A little bit, yeah.
Ooh, okay. Now I'm intrigued. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you. See you next week.
Tell Me Like I'm Stupid is created and produced by us, Sonia and Thomas. You can follow us on Instagram at Tell Me Like I'm Stupid.
If you'd like to support us, please subscribe and review on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Our cover art was created by Ish. Find him on Instagram at h.e.e.s.h.
Thank you for listening.